I won't let this get me down. I'll make the best of it. It may even be fun. It's shower watching time. So angry he screwed up Jimmy's life, Superman tries to make it up to him by giving him an exclusive story of a super job he promised to do, which is smashing a dam. So Jimmy takes super pictures as Superman smashes the wall. Wow, they're more than even now. I'd give my life for the chance to take pictures of a super dude flying through a wall. Seriously, does that even count as a story? I mean, I know it would be in our reality, but Superman's been doing super deeds since he was a Superboy in Smallville. So in their reality, this isn't anything new or shocking. Hey Ted, did you see the newspaper? Superman smashed through a dam yesterday. You mean when he headbutted that building yesterday? No, that was the day before yesterday. Yesterday he smashed through a dam. Holy shit, that's fantastic! Did anyone get any pictures? Yeah, they're right here in the newspaper. Wow, I never thought I'd live to see the day! Fucking awesome! Yep, we live in interesting times. Yep, we sure do. And as Jimmy and Superman get back to town, Soup asks if Jimmy wants to go on patrol with him, but Jimmy has other ideas and sneaks into a secret meeting of magicians and sees their secret rituals. Wow, watching some old guys at some boring meeting? Awesome! That's, exactly what I'd do if I was invisible. Wait, I am invisible, and I'm just reviewing this comic. Fuck, I'm lame. So, returning to his desk, Jimmy writes up his boring story and hands it in to Perry, only to find out that the paper he typed it on is now invisible as well. Yipes! Why did my story turn invisible too? I've lost the scoop. Jimmy, just have someone else type up the story as you dictate it. It's not that hard. Dumbass. And then the pictures Jimmy took turned invisible, and same with Perry's cigars that Jimmy had touched earlier. And all the money in Jimmy's pockets. Haha, serves you right, Jimmy. Serves him right? How's it his fault he's infected? That evening, as Jimmy keeps a previous date with Lucy Lane, Jimmy, you're touching her clothes. They're gonna turn invisible. You're my favorite character. And then people at the dance mock Lucy for dancing alone, and I already commented on this part, so I'm gonna skip to the good stuff as Jimmy walks Lucy home, and she gets mad at him because her clothes are turning invisible. Right on, Jimmy. Touch every girl's clothing. And then Jimmy goes home to his apartment and looks in his fridge. Fuck you, Olsen. And then he accidentally eats cat food. Serves you right for not making other girls' clothing disappear. And now with over half the story over, and only 3 pages left, the story picks up as Jimmy goes to help the police and inadvertently turns a dead man's signed statement identifying the criminal who killed him and stole radium invisible, hence stopping it from being used in a court and therefore freeing the criminal. The criminal, Quiz King Corbin, now freed, decides to thank Jimmy by inviting him over to his place, for some contrived reason, to give him an exclusive story about how it feels to escape the electric chair. And Jimmy accepts the offer, even though he couldn't write the story down to have it printed. Nothing these people are doing is making any sense anymore. Wow, the writer really wanted the ending to be what it is, and worked hard to manipulate the story to all fit together. Super bad writing. Then one of Quiz King Corbin's thugs points out Jimmy accidentally freeing him could be a scheme of Superman to get at the $1 million in uranium in a lead box that he had buried before his capture, which then causes Quiz King Corbin to test Jimmy by putting him in a lie detector. And finding out that it's not a scheme, they send Jimmy home, and that night dig up the loot. Why'd Jimmy help them? This is just dumb! And better yet, just because it isn't a scheme of Superman's doesn't mean Soup, knowing you're free, won't follow you and find out where you buried the loot! Dumbasses! Or it could be a scheme of Superman, and Jimmy just doesn't know about it. Soup does like fucking with his friends. Later, after driving to a landmark that Corbin easily locates, that looks like a grumpy Easter Island statue. Corbin says, I had it buried in loose sand. $1 million worth of radium. In that small box? $1 million in the 1960s? Wow! This leaden box it was in was too small for Superman to find with his X-ray vision. Soup can see for miles, and that hand-sized box was too small? Wow, is Soup just super lazy or what? So as they dig up the loot, Superman shows up and catches them. Didn't see that coming. More of a shock than the invisible thing. Superman, you mean it was a trick when you used Olsen to spring me? Not necessarily, but whether or not it was a trick won't stop him from following you once you're out of jail. I wonder why you thought it would. But it turns out it was all a scheme of Superman, and after jailing the gang, Superman visits Jimmy's apartment to explain how he planned everything, starting with his manufacturing of the invisibility serum in his super laboratory in his Fortress of Steel. Wait, his super laboratory? Wait, Fortress of Steel? Did you just misspeak? Or do you have two fortresses? 3 if you count your Fortress of Happiness. What's your Fortress of Steel full of? Miniature statues of all your friends? Holy craziness! I'll pour this invisibility serum I created into a glass of punch Jimmy drinks at his birthday party later. But I'll pretend the space jewel turned him invisible by mistake. Hey, so all the time you were lying about the space jewel turning him invisible? Why didn't you use ers in your sentence? Do you only say ers when the audience knows you're lying? Super contrived! And wait, you poured a serum in his drink? What if he switched drinks with someone else after you left? And how do you know exactly when he'd turn invisible? You left to change before he drank. How would you set up the timing? How can you pinpoint the exact timing on something like this, but forget a metal suit will melt if you go super fast? What the fuck? Anyway, so Soup finishes explaining all the details of his plan to Jimmy, and at least this time Soup got to explain his actions to someone instead of just thinking it to himself. But Jimmy is invisible, so to any onlooker, Soup is explaining it to himself. And why'd Soup need to do all that anyway? Why go to the trouble of making a serum and waiting for Jimmy's birthday and pouring the serum in his drink and risking someone else drinking it and then pretend to use a space jewel to turn Jimmy invisible and make him accidentally touch an incriminating piece of paper and turn it invisible? Couldn't Soup have just destroyed the incriminating paper so that Corbin got released and then followed him to where the radium was? Why go to all the trouble of turning Jimmy invisible? Why put Jimmy through all the fear and tribulations? And don't say to make a good story, because we all know that ain't true. Super mean. And the next day the invisibility serum wears off, and things go back to what passes for normal in a world where giant apes shoot lasers out of their eyes, and kids dream of men beating up gangs of dinosaurs. So, oh hey! I'm visible again! Cool! My invisibility was as contrived as the story was. So that's it. It's now the end.